Hey guys, it's Brandon. I've had several people ask me some questions like how I'm able to convince my parents to let me have all this stuff in my room and across my house. Well, my parents' house. So I have a couple tips to convince your parents or maybe roommates. I don't know. I've never had roommates. Maybe that's something you need approval for. But if you need to convince people to let you have certain pets, there's a couple steps that I go through in order to do that. So your first thing that you need to know is this something that you really want? Because chances are, if you're maybe like around, I'm 18, but if you're a teenager around there, and you do have some level of responsibility, there are just some things your parents probably won't let you have. I'm sorry, but if you're trying to convince your parents to let you have a crocodile or a venomous snake, that's just not happening. I'm sorry to break the news to you. However, maybe if you're trying to convince your parents to let you have like a ball python or a gecko, a turtle, whatever, that's still that's much more reasonable. So that's what I'd recommend you do. Find something that's within reason. Like I have a crested gecko that was a bit harder to convince my parents to let me get, but I did do some things to prove I was, I guess, responsible enough to do it. Um, Now, in order to prove your responsibility, there's a couple things you probably should do. First thing is, if you have any other pets, regardless of what they are, your parents probably won't let you get anything else unless your current ones are in like good health. I mean, if you're neglecting all your other things, your parents probably aren't going to let you get another thing. They also don't want to take up any extra responsibility. So they don't basically they don't want to get another task that they're going to have to do. They don't want to be feeding your frog or whatever else. They don't want to be caring for it. So make sure that you do everything you need because they aren't going to pick up your slack, or at least they don't want to because they probably don't want to see any animals suffering. Um, you also one thing that I've learned is I've done this and several people have as well. You can maybe write an essay on why you should. Maybe do a video. I actually did a video. I'm not sure if it's public, but I did one on why I should have a crested gecko. I might release that. It's really nothing special, but it's basically just convincing my parents why I should have a crested gecko. But writing an essay, that's something that you can do because most people don't really enjoy writing essays, but if you're willing to show that you're going to write an essay to prove why this would be a good thing, how you care for it, any supplies that are needed for it, what it eats, where it's from, things like that, that can be very helpful to convince your parents of what to do. Um, Now, there's some other things that you want to make sure about, like, is this going to be an animal that is going to grow? I have a rule that I haven't always followed as much as I should. In fact, there's some things I'm working on right now with upgrading, but my rule is I have to get a habitat that's going to fit the animal forever. I'm not going to get a 10-gallon aquarium for like an Oscar and just say, yeah, it'll live in the 10-gallon aquarium. Then by the time it's outgrown, I'll have enough money for a 75-gallon. Just save up your money, get the 75-gallon with the Oscar. Like this right here, there's a frog. There's a white tree frog that lives in there, and I've made sure that when I built that habitat, it's going to be able to live in there forever. It's like 40 gallons, and then there's the water space as well. There's plenty of space that the frog will be able to live its entire life in there. Um, I also have a pond for my turtle that's outside. There's other videos for that on my channel, but it's basically saying it's going to be able to live in there for the rest of its life. Because I guarantee it, something will come up. If you have an Oscar and it's a 10-gallon, there's some, well, most people my age don't really have that many bills, but something's going to come up where it's just going to be harder to upgrade the aquarium. I know stories of lots of adults who've told me just get the adult habitat for it because I guarantee your water heater's going to break or some medical bill is going to come up, whatever, where you're just going to, that money's just going to get diverted and that fish is just going to stay in that 10-gallon aquarium. And you really don't want to do that. So just make sure you have the adult size habitat for it. You also want to make sure you're trying to, I guess, don't pester your parents into it. Because one of the other things you have to convince them of is that you want it. because, again, responsibility. They aren't going to want to pick it up. They want to make sure that this is something that you really want, and they aren't going to have to pick up the slack for it. The second thing, which is important, convince them that they want this. I pretty much had to convince my mom, who hates geckos, that she really wants a gecko as well, even though she really does not want a gecko. My dad is much more lenient with that. He's gotten pretty interested in all these things as well. In fact, my 55-gallon aquarium that's downstairs, I basically convinced my family to let me have that by we all got to go and pick out all the fish for it. My one rule was my mom said, you can't do any of the weird freaky fish that you want. You can't do blind cave tetras or like leaf fish or anything that's like weird and ugly, and when people visit they're gonna think it's gross. So we basically just went with a lot of tetras and some Siamese algae eaters. We've had crebensis in there, just nice pretty fish. We aren't gonna do anything that's gonna scare off everyone. So that's something important you'll have to remember. So if you've ever had to convince any family members to let you get a cool pet or whatever, just let me know in the comments. Sorry I haven't been uploading as much because I've been kind of busy. I'm starting college soon, and I've been working on a lot of other projects that will be coming out soon as well. So hey, thank you guys all for watching. See you guys around soon.